What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Almeida versus Garbrandt. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Chris Rocha versus Adam Milstead. These two guys are both heavyweights, but Chris Rocha, he already made his UFC debut and he got knocked out in like under a minute. He didn't look that great. Adam Milstead, he's on a 7-fight win streak and he lost his first fight by TKO, but since his record's 7-1, and I think he just looks like the better prospect overall. I think, sometimes people lose their first fight, but he's looked good since then. So I'm going to say Adam Milstead wins by first round TKO probably. Next is Aljamain Sterling versus Bryan Caraway. And I'll talk about this for a second just because this should be the main event. It really should. You got the number 5 guy, Aljamain Sterling, find the number 8 guy, Bryan Caraway, and they have the same style, and I just feel like this is constant punishment for Aljamain Sterling. I've said it before that I feel like he gets fucked over all the time just because he talks about how much he gets paid and how much he's worth. And it's the same thing. He's at the very bottom of the card, and it's not because he isn't good. It's because they're punishing him, and that's all this is that they're just, showing him that, you can't talk back to them, kind of. And it's just irritating to see a lesser main event when this should be the main event. I think Aljamain Sterling has the better wrestling. I think Caraway's got the better jiu-jitsu overall. Striking-wise, these guys are probably about even. It just depends on if Bryan Caraway can catch Sterling in a submission, and I do think he can, but I don't know if he will. I'm going to pick Bryan Caraway. I just do feel like an upset's going to come. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Aljamain's just able to grind him out. But I'm going to pick Bryan Caraway. I think sooner or later his jiu-jitsu is just a little bit better and he'll catch Sterling in something. Next is Eric Koch versus Shane Campbell. And Eric Koch just hasn't looked that great recently. I think he was a top prospect a couple of years ago, but he's just been losing a lot recently and he's been knocked out the last couple of fights. As where Shane Campbell has been looking better consistently every single fight, and I don't think anything's going to change. I think there's going to be a striking match, and Shane Campbell's going to start to pick Eric Koch apart, probably late first, early second, and win by TKO with just the better striking. Next is Jake Collar versus Albino Unda, and Uda looks like a really good prospect. He's 9-0. He's got striking and jiu-jitsu. My one and only fear is that I do think his wrestling is a tiny bit weak, and that's Jake Collar's biggest strength. So Jake Collar could grind him out, but I'm going to pick the guy who just looks better overall, which is Uda. I say he wins by TKO or submission. Next is Abel Trujillo versus Jordan Ronaldo. And I think if Jordan had more time, he probably could have pulled off an upset because his style is a really good matchup for Aljamain Sterling. I mean, not Aljamain, but Abel Trujillo. But because he just had like a week or two to prepare for this fight, I just feel like he's not going to be able to get this fight to the ground and use his really good jiu-jitsu. And Aljamain Sterling's just going to be able to stuff the takedowns and probably win by knockout, either late first or early second, just because he's had the 8 to 10 weeks to prepare and Jordan hasn't. Next is Sarah McMahon versus Jessica Ai, and this is really striker versus grappler. Sarah McMahon's a great wrestler. Jessica Ai is an okay striker, in my opinion. I don't think she's a great striker. I feel like Jessica Ai, the only reason why she's been ranked so high for so long is because she won that really close decision against Sarah Kaufman, but she was taking like steroids or something like that, so it turned into a no contest. And I've never thought that she was that good. I feel like I thought Sarah Kaufman won that fight, and aside from that one fight, I think she's gone 1-3 since then. I think Sarah McMahon, her striking's been looking a lot better every single fight. I think she just got caught against I can't remember what her name is, but she's fighting for the title. And I just feel like Sarah McMahon's got the wrestling and the striking, and all Jessica Ai really has is her striking, and I don't think it's that great. So I think Sarah McMahon will be able to grind out a decision. I don't think this fight will be super exciting, but I do think she'll win by decision. Next is Josh Berkman versus Paul Felder, and I think that, Paul Felder is so weird because I feel like he's really good, but at the exact same time, I feel like he has a lot of holes. And I feel like if Josh Berkman fights the perfect fight, he could easily take a decision in this one. I feel like, grappling-wise, Paul Felder's all right. I think striking wise, he's definitely better, but Berkman's really good at making doing weird shit to kind of throw people off, and his wrestling is always there, and I think he can consistently get takedowns against Paul Felder. And that's really the thing. If Paul Felder's takedown defense has gotten better, like a lot better, he'll probably win this fight easy, but I don't think it has. I think Josh Berkman will be able to mix it up and just do, kind of go in and out with his weird striking and then just hit takedowns when he needs to and get a close decision. Next is Jorge Masvidal versus Lorenz Larkin. And Lorenz is a really good striker, but that's it. I feel like Jorge Masvidal's kind of got a great game everywhere. I feel like Jorge Masvidal's kind of been fucked over in his UFC career. I feel like he's, aside from that one fight to the Russian dude, Khabib, not Khabib, but the other Russian guy, I thought he won against Ali Quinta, and then I also thought he won against Ben Henderson. So he's lost fights, but especially the Ali Quinta fight, I didn't think that fight was close at all. So I just feel like his striking, his wrestling, and his jiu-jitsu are all super good, as where Lorenz is just kind of a striker. And, when he fights really good wrestlers, he has a hard time doing anything about it. And I'm not saying Jorge Masvidal is a great wrestler, but he definitely knows how to mix things up and kind of do what he wants when he wants to. So I'm going to say Jorge Masvidal probably gets this fight to the ground and wins by decision. Next is Chris Camozzi versus Vitor Miranda. And Vitor Miranda is a really great striker, but that's about it. I think Chris Camozzi he's not great anywhere, but he's good at everything. And I think if he can turn this into a really grinding type of fight, he can probably get an easy 30-27 decision win. I think his striking is good enough where he won't have to fight with him. He won't play into Vitor's game, and I feel like his wrestling and jiu-jitsu is good enough where he can kind of hold him against the fence and kind of take him down and grind out points. So I say Camozzi wins a close decision. Next is Tarek Saffiedine versus Rick Story. And Tarek Saffiedine, he hasn't looked that great since he entered the UFC. I feel like he's a little too patient with everything he does. Especially in his last fight, it just didn't seem like he was going after it enough. And if he does that against Rick Story's just going to bully him against the fence and hit him with body shots all day. And we're really going to see in this fight if he's top 10 or not. And I don't think he is at this moment, just based on his last fight against Jake Allenberger. I don't think he's going to be able to move around like how he did against Jake Allenberger. I think Rick Story's too aggressive for that shit. I think if he tries that, Rick Story's just going to bully him against the fence and beat him up all day. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think Rick Story might get a late finish, but he'll probably just end up winning a decision. Next is Renan Barão versus Jeremy Stephens. And this is kind of like Tarek Saffiedine. We're going to see how much Renan Barão still has in the tank. He's moving up to 145, which I think is good because the weight cut was way too hard for him. Like I said, it's really hard to tell just because Renan Barão looked like shit in that fight against TJ Dillashaw. It honestly looked like he kind of gave up halfway through. He was not even throwing strikes at one point. And Jeremy Stephens looks really good at 145, but he's still kind of like a guy who wins and alternates wins and losses. It's just so difficult just because I have no idea. Like, if Renan Barão is the old Renan Barão, like at 135, then he'll run through Jeremy Stephens easy. If he's completely done, then Jeremy Stephens can win by knockout. So it's just, how much do you think Renan Barão has left in the tank? And I just have to go based on their last fights, and Jeremy Stephens still looks like he's, still pretty good, but Renan Barão just did not impress me at all. So I'm going to say Jeremy Stephens wins by knockout. But you never know. Like I said, maybe it was just the weight cut, and Renan Barão just needed to not cut so much weight. But anyway, Jeremy Stephens by knockout. Finally, we got Thomas Almeida versus Cody Garbrandt, and I feel like this is definitely going to be a really exciting fight. It's two strikers. Cody Garbrandt, obviously a really good boxer. Almeida, a really good Muay Thai guy. I think that we've already seen that Almeida is really hittable. I think in every single one of his fights, aside from the ones that he ended really quick, that boxing is kind of like a really good boxer who's fast and good at getting in and out is kind of like his kryptonite. I think Brad Pickett really exposed him. I thought Brad Pickett was beating the shit out of him before he got knocked out. So I think Cody Garbrandt can do the exact same thing. I think Cody Garbrandt will eventually knock him out. I just feel like his style is really good against Almeida. So I say he probably wins by like 4th round knockout. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.